So the organization that you work for has entrusted you with being on airport duty. I'm going to help you get prepared on today's Till We Make It. I'm Mike Quackenbush. This is Till We Make It. And when you're on airport duty, you are a little bit like the Batman for your wrestling organization. You can't just jump in the car, peel out of the cave, and think that everything is going to go perfectly. Oh no, you must prepare. So what are some things that you've got to do before you jump in the Batmobile and head off to the airport? Well, a couple things before you get going. Number one, you're going to need some information from the organization, like what is the airline that this person is on? What is their flight number? And especially in major metropolitan areas like London or Chicago that are serviced by more than one major airport, you need to know which airport you're going to. And you might erroneously imagine that this is some meager errand you've been dispatched on. But as someone who has run a wrestling organization, I can tell you firsthand, it is anything but. This is critically important because in the case of a lot of fly-in talent, who often are top dollar figure or most sought-after talents out there on the circuit, this is that organization's very first impression with the wrestler. And that is all going to fall on you and your presentation at the airport. I don't mind telling you, at my home promotion of Chikara, when we finally evolved to a point where we could fly in wrestlers from other parts of the country or other parts of the world, that was a major step up for us in terms of our notoriety, in terms of our esteem. And we had to make sure we got every one of those interactions absolutely correct so that we were making the right impression, not just with the talent, but then everybody that talent speaks to, everybody within their network. And in an age of social media where information can be shared in the blink of an eye, getting that first impression right is more valuable than ever. So you need to know which airport you're headed to, and you need to know the information about the person you need to pick up. And it's also extremely helpful to have a contact number that you can reach them at. If you're provided with this the night before the flight, it's never a bad idea to send a friendly but briefly worded introductory text to the person that you're going to be meeting, like, "Hey, my name is Mike. I'm going to be meeting you tomorrow at the airport to make sure we get to the show on time," and maybe even send along a picture of what you look like, or what you're wearing tomorrow, or your car. So all of those things, all of those potential unknowns are now known to the person who'll be looking for you. Before you pull out of the Batcave and head to the airport, it's a good idea to check the website of the airline bringing that passenger to you. Check the flight status. Has it been delayed or has it been canceled? Have they been rerouted for some reason? That information is really important, and you want to make sure you communicate it to your superior, whoever it is that entrusted you with doing the airport pickup. It's also going to inform whether or not you need to leave home right now. It might turn out if that flight's been delayed 6 hours, you don't have to head off to O'Hare just yet. You can catch up on your Netflix a little bit. So, if it's time for you to hop in the Batmobile, make sure you pad out that travel time so that you can go and do at least a little bit of a cleaning on your vehicle. You might go to a self-service car wash where you pay a couple bucks and they're going to clean the exterior. You pop a couple quarters into one of those industrial strength vacuum cleaners to make sure that all that lint and all those crumbs are off all of the seats and all of the floor mats, and you throw away any litter or refuse that happens to have collected in your vehicle, because that is a really key impression maker. And I am telling you, as someone who very recently was picked up in a vehicle that had not been cleaned at all, it completely informed what my opinion of that organization was before I'd ever actually met anybody in charge. Whenever I have been tasked with picking somebody up at the airport, and I suspect they are traveling with anything more than just a carry-on bag, so they're going to have at least one checked bag, a larger, heavier item, I make sure to turn up far enough in advance to park my car, typically in the short-term parking lot, although some regional airports will humor you with your four-way flashers, at least for a short amount of time. Most major airports, if you leave your car to go into the terminal, by the time you get back, that car is going to be gone. So number one, you could wear a shirt or jacket branded for the organization that hired this person who is flying in. That might help make you identifiable. And you might have taken that opportunity earlier on to send them a photo so they know what you look like. But especially in the case of those people who may not speak the same language as you do not be afraid to be the person with the placard standing near the baggage carousel waiting very patiently. A quick addendum. I put Max Moon on this placard because, of course, I did. But if I was really tasked with picking up Max Moon at the airport, I would never write his name on the placard. Why? Because Max Moon wears a mask. I'd be outing him in front of everybody there at the baggage carousel. I've got to be more clever. I've got to be more coy. I could always buy a second backer board, pull it out of my comic collection, and write something else on the back, like the name of the organization itself. Or if you happen to know their last name, just write their surname on the placard. They will most likely recognize their own last name. You can be certain anytime that I have been tasked with doing airport duty, I am quick to help with the checked bags. I want to make it as easy as possible for them to get out of the terminal, load it into my vehicle, and we get on our way. And something I like to ask as soon as we get going is this. Is there anything you need or anywhere you need to stop before we get to the venue? And flipping this whole scenario around, I know how much I appreciate it when my driver asks me that. Because a lot of times I'm coming off a long flight or a flight where we weren't offered any food, and I need to eat a real meal before I go to work. Or in some other cases, if there's the opportunity, because we've got plenty of time before call time, I love to go to the hotel and shower, shave, and feel clean and ready to go to work. And just thinking back on my own experience picking people up from airports, I can think of people that asked to stop off at a sporting goods store because they forgot their elbow pads, or they wanted to buy athletic tape, or people that wanted to stop off at a pharmacy because they needed ibuprofen or cold medicine, or whatever it is that they might need. Whatever you can do to make them feel like a welcome guest in the house that you represent, you should make every effort to do so. There are two kinds of apps that are going to make this job a whole lot easier for you. One is a translation app for those instances where you're picking up an international traveler or anyone that doesn't speak your language. Free translation apps are common and will help you to communicate with whomever you've picked up. And a navigation app to make sure that you have the most expedient route possible to get you from the airport to the venue. There is nothing more frustrating as someone who sometimes does get picked up at airports when the person has no idea how to get to the venue from where they've met me at the airport. And while every once and again I do appreciate a scenic tour of the cities I visit, sometimes that is not entirely appropriate. And other times you are on a tight timetable, so you need a navigation app to get you from point A to point B with no fuss or muss. And you might imagine that your job of being on airport duty ends once you get to the venue, you unload your car, help them get their luggage into the building, and they're all set up in the dressing room. But that isn't always the case, because you may also be expected to return them to the airport either after the event or whenever it is that they are flying home, provided they aren't moving on to some other organization where they become the responsibility of that company, or they aren't handling their own travel arrangements from that point forward. And whoever tasked you with this particular but very important responsibility is who you want to check in with every step of the way. And I've got one last tip for you if you happen to be on airport duty. Whenever I have gone to the airport, I'm waiting on somebody, or I've just picked them up, or we are en route, I always like to advise the person in charge at the venue of my status. Because when that isn't done, guaranteed I get messages from them asking those exact questions. Have you picked them up yet? Are you on the way? Did you stop somewhere? What's taking so long? You know those messages are inevitably coming. And the more high profile the person you're responsible for transporting, the more likely those questions are coming for you. Here on Till We Make It, I do try to cover a lot of first-time experiences in these brief tutorials because I appreciate how many people that subscribe to this channel are new to the wrestling lifestyle and young in their journey to becoming a professional wrestler. You're years before you've established a legacy, but important things like this, the responsibility of meeting somebody at the airport and getting them to the show on time, that's how you begin to build a reputation. And though these things might seem like innocuous chores, they are so much more. Because every interaction of this kind that you have is an opportunity to build a relationship, to form a network, and to leave a lasting impression that will benefit you for years. If this information has been valuable to you, make sure that you elbow drop that like button, hit the subscribe, and also ring the notification bell. These are the things I demand of you. And then I want to see you down below in the comments section where we plumb all these great ideas for future videos. So if there's something else about your wrestling experience you need to see covered here on Till We Make It, just drop it below and I'll find it there.